In this TSP Tips video, I get to cover one of my favorite topics, matching. And why is it one of my favorite? Because I love showing people how to get free money. We're going to cover three main topics. One, in your early career, when you might not have as much money to go into your TSP, how do you handle matching? Then later on in your career, when you have enough money, do you put in more than the match? And then finally, some of the emotional benefits you get from matching. Welcome to Financial Planning for Feds. My name is Ed Smith, President of Valor Wealth Partners. We are dedicated to educating federal employees on how to maximize value from their government benefits by developing and executing a financial plan. Before we get to those three topics, I want to share a story with you of why matching is so important. Last year, I sat with a couple, both of them federal employees. The wife was taking full advantage of her match. She was actually maxing out her TSP. The husband wasn't putting any money in the TSP because he was saving for other important things in their life. Unfortunately, they were missing $8,000 a year of free money from the federal government just because he was not doing any matching at all. Now, they were both around GS-15s, so they were at a higher level of the pay grade. But this money could be affecting anybody if you're not taking advantage of the match. So please, look at what you're doing and monitor on a regular basis to make sure you don't fall into the same trap that this couple did and that you're getting every bit of free money from the government that you deserve. Okay, let's get into that first segment. You're early in your career, you might be a little bit tight on your budget, and you don't know if you should put everything into the match. This is very understandable. When I first started off in my career, it was very tough to put the full match of the company that I was working at. So I did what I could, and you should too. Don't overextend yourself just to get the match. You have bills that you need to pay. You also have obligations and dreams that you have that will come up well before retirement. But don't wait too long to get up to that matching level. You want to get up to that 5% level so you can get the full match from the federal government. Now, if you're making $100,000 at a 5% match, that's $5,000 a year that the government gives to you at no cost. It's just free money for you. And when I say free, you've earned it, but it's matching what your contribution is. So you put in 5, the government puts in 5, you're actually putting in $10,000 a year, and that's a 100% return on investment in the first year. That's a phenomenal return. You can't get it anywhere else. So please, get up to that 5% as early as you can, but don't strain yourself or put yourself in a financial obligation that you can't get out of. So do it safely, but do it as quick as you possibly can, because that's free money that you deserve. Okay, let's go into that next area. You're cruising around, you're mid-career, maybe later on in your career, and you have all of this excess money. You're covering your bills, and you think, should I put more money in than the match, or should I take it outside? Well, there's a lot of factors that go in here. One of them is your pension. As a federal employee, you have an incredible pension, and you're probably going to be pretty good in retirement to cover your basic needs. So should you be putting more money into that TSP? Well, like I said, you definitely want to be putting up to the full match. Over and above, you have to look at what your lifestyle is now. Are there things that you're not doing just so you can save for your future? Well, if you calculate out what you need for your retirement, you look at your pensions and you look at your other monies, you might already be okay. So you can back down the amount that you're putting in the TSP as long as you don't go below that match. For other people, they might have to put more money in because they're not going to get fully what they want out of retirement. So it really depends on an analysis and doing good financial planning to make sure you know where you stand in the long term to understand how much money you should put in. Generally, because federal employees have that pension, and if both of you are federal employees or both have a pension, you want to take advantage of just the match and maybe look at some of the other monies to do something else. Maybe something fun for you and your family, maybe invest in a different tax-sensitive way, and maybe have other ways that you can be able to invest and maybe look at a Roth or something else. We talked in one of the other videos about the Roth versus traditional. I definitely take a look at this to see if there's a benefit for you for not putting everything into the TSP over the match. All right, and that final area that I talked about was an emotional benefit. Well, how can you get an emotional benefit by just taking money out of your paycheck? Well, here it is. When you look at the free money from the government, if you can address that in a different way, it will help you out. So let's use that example again of $100,000 of income, and you're putting in your 5%, and the government's putting in another 5%. So you're putting in $10,000 total. And let's say the market crashes and we go into a recession. Well, the first thing you want to look at is your 5% that you took out of your paycheck. That's relatively safe. And the first money you lose is the government's money. So you're not losing your money that you took out of your paycheck, you're taking out the free money, and that helps you offset some of that emotional loss. I see this time and time again when clients are saying, Ed, my IRA or my other accounts went down a lot, but my TSP didn't. The reason is because you're putting more money in. Because you're putting both your money and the government's money in, it's keeping your account values higher. So again, another emotional win that you're not seeing the loss as you would in other accounts because it's constantly putting more money in on a bi-weekly basis. Let's go back to that person that was making $100,000 a year. So between their match and how much they were contributing out of their paycheck, they're putting in 10% or $10,000 a year. If your TSP had $50,000 in it, and the market went down 20%, you'd have a $10,000 loss. But because you put in $10,000 into your TSP that year, you wouldn't actually see that loss. You might see that loss when you went in because it's not going to exactly match up. But this is a good example that because you're putting more money in, you don't actually see that loss where you would see it on other accounts. So you have an emotional win, and it can keep you invested for the long term and help you out. The two emotional wins that you have, one is that it's not your money, it's the government's money you're going to lose first before you go into your hard-earned paycheck money. And then secondly, it doesn't go down as much because the portfolio is being propped up by the new money that you keep putting into your portfolio. So those emotional wins help you stay invested. It could also make you be a little bit more risky in the TSP because you can understand how these emotional wins affect you. Please make sure that you are at a correct risk level. And to do this, you need to do an evaluation to know exactly where this stands. Even though you have emotional wins with TSP matching, you have to be careful. You have to watch your portfolio and monitor on a regular basis. A little bit more monitoring in volatile times, but you still should be monitoring at least once a year. One of the best times to do this is during open season, because looking at all of your benefits, you can double check to make sure your match is correct, and maybe you weren't missing some from the earlier years when you were a little bit lower. But you also can look at your allocation. While you're looking at the match, you might as well just dive in and look at all of your TSP and make sure it's all working properly. Thank you for your time today, and I look forward to seeing you in our next TSP tip.